Hey, everybody. Thanks for being with us today.
Of course.
We're going to be looking at Amalickiah's rise to power.
Oh, this will be a good one.
Yeah, this is in the Book of Mormon in Alma chapter 47.
Yeah.
And I'm really fascinated to see kind of what you have to say about this story.
Well, right off the bat, it's just amazing how much human nature has stayed the same.
Yeah.
Like Amalickiah's story, the desire for power, what lengths people will go to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a timeless theme,
Yeah, it's scary.
It really is.
So right away, we see him playing on the Lamanites' fears of the Nephites.
Right.
He did stir up the Lamanites to anger against the people of Nephi.
Right.
That's in Alma 47.1.
Mm-hmm.
Why were they so afraid, though?
Right.
What's the backstory here?
We got to remember, this is a conflict that goes all the way back to the beginning, like to the very beginning of the story. I mean, these two groups, they're descendants of the same father Lehi.
Right.
And they've been battling for generations.
Wow.
And so this fear that we see in Alma 47.2,
Yeah.
it's not just about like a potential war. It's about generations of animosity.
Wow.
It's the very real threat of being conquered by the other side.
Yeah, because they had been conquered before.
Exactly.
Like they'd been through that.
They've been through it.
So it wasn't just like a fear. It was like a reality.
Historical trauma,
Right. That's real. And Amalickiah knew exactly how to use that.
Oh, he did. He was a master at it.
Yeah.
It's almost like he was just waiting for the right opportunity.
Yeah.
And when the Lamanite king got frustrated with his people's disobedience in verse 3, Amalickiah jumps at the chance.
Wow.
He takes command of the part of the army that's willing to obey.
Oh, so he's taking the ones who are already like...
The ones who are ready to follow orders
Right.
and knowing that this is going to put him in a position of power.
Right. And that was what he was going for.
Oh, absolutely. He had his sights set on that throne from the very beginning.
It says in verse 4 that Amalickiah had been a long time forming an army of dissenters.
Right.
Being exceeding popular among all the people who were desirous to dethrone the king.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So his plan had been in the works for a long time.
Wow.
This was not some spur-of-the-moment thing.
Yeah.
He was incredibly strategic about how he went about it.
Mm-hmm.
He needed to gain the trust of both the Lamanites who were loyal to the king and those who wanted him gone.
Wow.
He had to play both sides.
And he managed to do that.
He did. He was very cunning.
How did he do that?
Well, in verses 4 through 6, it describes how he meticulously crafted this persona of a leader who understood their grievances. He appealed to their fear of the Nephites.
Right.
While also promising change and a new direction for their people.
Yeah.
It's a classic move. It's like promising what people want to hear, regardless of what his real agenda is.
Right. So he's like a master manipulator.
Oh, yeah.
And like a skilled politician all rolled into one. Yeah, that's scary.
It is.
So then we come to the standoff at Mount Antipas.
Oh, yes.
Where Lehanti, the leader of the dissenting Lamanites, refuses to come down to meet with him.
Right. It's a fascinating power play.
Yeah.
Described in verses 7 through 12.
Okay.
Lehanti, by refusing to meet Amalickiah on his terms, is essentially challenging his authority.
Oh, wow.
Like, you want to meet with me?
Yeah.
You come up here to me.
Wow.
Don't summon me down to you.
Okay, so he's like, I'm in charge here.
I'm in charge here. I'm on top of the mountain.
Yeah.
You come to me.
And Amalickiah doesn't back down.
He doesn't.
He goes up the mountain to meet Lehanti.
He does.
But not for like a peaceful negotiation.
Right.
Right.
He knew that a direct confrontation with Lehanti wasn't going to work in his favor.
Right.
So he appeals to Lehanti's ambition.
Oh.
He offers him a deal that seems impossible to refuse.
Okay.
Help me capture the king's loyal forces, and we'll rule the Lamanites together. It's all there in verses 13 to 16.
So Lehanti, blinded by this promise of power, falls right into Amalickiah's trap.
He does. It's exactly what Amalickiah wanted.
Wow.
It says in Alma 47.1c, and it came to pass that when Amalickiah saw that he had obtained the possession of the mind of Lehanti, that he was exceeding glad.
So that's where we'll leave it for today.
Okay.
With Lehanti completely under Amalickiah's influence.
Under his thumb.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's a chilling reminder of how easily even those in positions of power can be manipulated.
Absolutely.
When their desires overpower their better judgment.
Absolutely.
It's scary.
It is a scary thought.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Of course.
We'll be back next week with part 2 of this discussion.
I can't wait. We left off last time with Lehanti totally under Amalickiah's influence,
right,
ready to betray his own people for power. Yeah. And this is where it gets dark.
Yeah.
You see how far Amalickiah is willing to go?
It's just scary how he manipulates him. Like, Leonti had his own ambitions, but to turn against his own people.
It really is.
It's pretty messed up.
It is. And what's interesting is Amalickiah uses the Lamanite culture to his advantage.
Okay.
Alma 47.17 says it was the custom of the Lamanites that they should anoint a king over them.
Right.
And also a second king.
Right, a king and like a vice king.
Yeah, so if the king died,
yeah,
the second in command would automatically take over.
Oh, wow.
So he hatches a plan to get rid of Leonti and take his place.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. Anyway, he poisons him, doesn't he?
He does.
It's so casual how it's described.
I know.
It's kind of freaky.
It is a little bit disturbing.
Alma 47.18 says, "And it came to pass that when they had encamped in the valley of Gideon, Amalickiah secretly gave poison unto Leonti in his drink.
Right.
Therefore Leonti died."
And just like that,
yeah,
Amalickiah takes over,
Schweezy.
fulfilling that agreement with the dissenters.
Oh, so that was part of the deal. Okay.
Amalickiah takes Leonti's place. It's all right there in verse 19.
So it's like he planned this all out.
Oh, absolutely.
Every step of the way.
He was a master strategist.
Yeah.
And his next move is just as cunning.
Okay.
He marches to the city of Nephi, pretending he's gathering an army to fight the Nephites.
Oh, so he's pretending to be loyal?
Oh, he's playing the part.
Wow.
He even acts all respectful towards the king when they meet.
Oh, my God.
You know, trying to seem like this loyal servant.
What a performance.
It really is. Like, he's putting on a show.
Yeah.
All to hide his true intentions.
Oh, man.
The king, totally unsuspecting, welcomes him into the city.
Oh, no.
And it's in verses 22 and 23, Amalickiah, like, orchestrates this elaborate display of reverence.
Okay.
You know, tells all his servants to bow down to the king, but it's all an act, just a distraction for his real plan.
And that's when one of his servants stabs the king.
That's right. One of his servants stabs the king.
It's crazy how brutal it is.
Yeah.
It says in Alma 47.24, "And as the king put forth his hand to raise him up from the ground, he inflicted a wound upon him."
Right.
Even in that part where he had formerly been wounded by Amalickiah.
So he was already injured.
Yeah, he was already weak.
Oh.
And then he stabs him right in the same spot.
Brutal. And what does Amalickiah do?
I bet he doesn't help.
No, he doesn't help at all.
Right.
Instead, he uses this opportunity to turn the situation to his advantage.
So he frames the king's servants.
He does.
For the murder.
Yeah, he makes it look like they're the ones who did it.
And this turns the people against them.
Yeah, he manipulates the crowd's emotions, turns their grief and confusion into anger and a thirst for vengeance.
That's awful.
It's a classic tactic.
Yeah.
Used by dictators throughout history.
Yeah.
You know, using fear and division to solidify power.
Yeah, that's scary.
It's a very effective tactic, unfortunately.
So by the time he enters the city of Nephi, he's in charge.
He's the lead.
It's crazy how he took advantage of this whole situation.
It really is.
And he just keeps lying.
He does, doesn't he?
He keeps up the charade.
He lies to the queen.
Yeah.
Blames the king's servants for everything.
Even provides false witnesses to back up his claims.
What?
It's all there in verses 32 through 34.
That is insane.
He's got no limits.
And he even marries the queen.
He does. It's the ultimate power move.
That's crazy.
Verse 35.
So he's got complete control now.
Total control.
Amalickiah is the king.
He's achieved his goal.
It's incredible how he manipulated everyone to get what he wanted.
It's a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
About ambition and deceit.
But it's not just his story, is it?
Right.
What about the Nephite dissenters who joined him?
Ah, yes.
Yes.
What happens to them?
That's a whole other story.
Yeah, okay.
Their fate shows us how straying from your faith can lead to ruin.
Right.
We'll talk about that when we come back. So we left off talking about the Nephite dissenters who joined Amalickiah.
Right. What happens to them?
Well, their fate, it's really a sad story because it's an example of how straying from your faith can lead to some pretty bad consequences.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine, like, how they could just abandon everything.
Right.
Like, they knew what they believed and they just threw it all away.
We got to remember, they were already unhappy with the Nephite leadership.
Yeah.
They felt like they didn't belong.
Okay.
And Amalickiah, he was really good at using those feelings to his advantage.
Right.
He promised them a better life, you know?
Okay.
A chance to kind of escape the Nephite rules.
Yeah.
And make their own way.
So it's like their discontent made them easy targets.
Exactly. They were searching for something.
Right.
Even if it meant giving up what they believed in.
Yeah, that's really sad.
It is. And as they spent more time with the Lamanites, they started to forget their own spiritual heritage.
Yeah.
It says in Alma 47.36.
Okay.
They became more hardened and impenitent and more wild, wicked, and ferocious than the Lamanites. Drinking in with the Lamanites of their wine of the wrath of God.
That's a really powerful image.
Yeah.
Drinking in the wine of the wrath of God.
It's like they completely turned their backs on their faith.
Yeah.
And embraced wickedness instead. And it's like a warning to us about who we surround ourselves with.
Right.
Because bad company can really drag you down.
Yeah.
You see, these dissenters, they didn't just lose their faith.
Right.
They became even worse than the Lamanites.
Wow.
Like exceeding them in their wickedness.
And that's because of the choices they made.
Exactly. The choices we make, they don't just affect us.
Right.
They affect the people around us too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
By following Amalickiah, these dissenters, they didn't just hurt themselves.
Right.
They added to the suffering of everyone else.
Wow.
So it's like a reminder to stay true to what you believe in, even when things are tough.
Yeah.
And to be careful who you trust.
Right.
Because the wrong people can lead you down a dangerous path.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about choosing good over evil.
Right.
And remembering that our choices have consequences.
Well, that's really thought-provoking.
It's a powerful story.
Yeah, it really is.
And it has a lot to teach us about faith and integrity.
Absolutely.
And the importance of choosing the right path.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up.
Yeah.
Thanks for being with us.
Of course.
And thanks to everyone listening.
Yeah, we appreciate you tuning in.
If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to subscribe.
Yeah, we've got more coming.